Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. We'll give everyone a couple of minutes to continue joining this afternoon's call. We're excited to kick off this webinar titled Trucking Mastery, Navigating the Road to Success with our special guests, Kevin Rutherford and Mr. Brent Hutto. To get started, Kevin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Do you want the long version or the Reader's Digest version?
Whatever you're here for this Friday.
Yeah, we should probably stick to the Reader's Digest version. Sometimes I go all the way back to the night I was conceived. I still remember that, but I'll shorten it up a little bit. But why do you think that's funny, Brent?
Well, I mean, you would be one of the very few that would know about the night he was conceived. So that's all I got to say.
Well, no, I'm sure of it. I remember going to the drive-in with my father and coming home with my mother.
I love it. Love
But we'll skip ahead on the story. So just to give you the big picture, third generation in trucking. My grandfather was an owner-operator. My father was an owner-operator, but unfortunately failed at it over and over and over. And loved owning the truck, but didn't know how to run a business. Yeah, and watching that, I decided, well, I don't want to do that. That looks awful. And then it ended up being plan B, so I bought a truck and kind of did the same thing, made a whole bunch of mistakes, and then figured out how to do it correctly. And then realized that I enjoyed teaching other people how to do this even more than I enjoyed running a trucking company myself.
Right.
So 30 plus years now, I've been helping other people understand how to run a small trucking company very profitably. And our model, and we'll be talking about that throughout this program, is learn how to run one truck where you squeeze every penny of profit possible out of that truck before you ever think about adding a second truck. And then many people still will not want or should add a second truck. And I'll even say now, adding a second truck is a bigger decision than buying the first truck. With one truck, I can guarantee somebody's success. And that's not an exaggeration. If you do what we show you to do, I can guarantee you'll succeed. Once you buy the second truck, the guarantee's off the table. Can't guarantee anything. But if you do it right, and that's what we're going to show you how to do, we're going to show you how to do this right. So this is just what I do every day. I've done it for 10,000 hours on the air. This is the big picture. We're going to be presenting 30 minutes worth of material and then leave it open for some questions. Brent, you've been doing with this kind of stuff with me for a long time now. How fast can we go through 30 minutes?
Light speed, no doubt, Kevin. You know, I'll never forget the day I met you back in 1999 and really started digging into what it meant to help owner operators succeed in the business. This was back when I was working for Overdrive Magazine, which I worked there for 15 years and worked with you as a partner in bringing Partners in Business, an education platform from Overdrive to owner operators. And really, as I just kind of was around owner operators for now more than 25 years, just realized more and more and more how much I really enjoy helping them create success in their business, and how much just by following some of the basic blocking and tackling of the business setup, how much more that owner operator can enjoy their chasing their dream of owning their own business. And so now at Truckstop for the last 11 years, I now have the ability from a platform standpoint to be able to make that revenue and that profit and that experience of success for owner operators, and bringing this to the market as this series for Trucking Mastery is just another part of this lifelong pursuit I've had to help truckers be successful in the market.
Absolutely. So just to give everybody kind of the heads up, the presentation part of this is going to take about 30 minutes.
Yep.
And then we're going to leave time open for questions. The presentation is going to be big picture. This is not detailed, because if it was, we wouldn't get through one topic. But that's why we leave questions open. You can ask any question you want. I'll manage the questions at the end. But if you need more specifics, that's where that's going to happen. So with that, do we want to kick this off? Anything else we need to cover? All right.
Let's get going. I'm excited.
I do want to share that we provided a workbook to all of the registered attendees. So if they check their emails, they should have received it right before the call. It's an interactive PDF, so you can follow along as Kevin and Brent teach.
So Brent, let's start with this, because this workbook People might think, oh yeah, okay, it's a workbook. You deal with a lot of successful people. You are in companies that started with one person and now maybe have thousands or even tens
Right.
of thousands of
Correct.
employees.
Mhm.
One of the things I notice about people who are successful, just in general, they write a lot of stuff down.
Oh my goodness. They are planning and planning and replanning and planning and replanning all the time, always trying to improve upon their plan. Yeah, absolutely.
I used to believe that I could keep all of this stuff in my head.
Yeah, that's
You know,
impossible. Yeah.
when I would read about, well, write down goals or have a plan, and I would think, well, yeah, I have goals, I have a plan, it's all in my head. Well, here's
Mhm.
what happens. I don't care how unless you're Elon Musk. Elon might be an exception to this, but
He might,
most of the
maybe.
rest of us are not. Your brain can only handle about 3 ideas at a time.
Yeah,
And when we talk about building a successful small trucking company, there's about 3,000 ideas.
yeah,
And what happens if you're not willing and you don't take the time to write this stuff down, what'll happen is your brain will work on 3 ideas
yeah,
over and over and over and you'll never be able to move on to the next step. Once you get it in writing, it frees up your brain to rethink about the next thing I need to do. And then you get that in writing. And then, so that's what this workbook is all about. So don't discount how important that workbook is.
yeah,
And
for
the,
sure, Kevin, and taking great notes on this too, and building on those because one idea or one decision begets another one and begets another one. And so when you write those down, they sort of start solidifying in your mind to where you want to navigate your business to. So I can't emphasize writing down your goals and writing down the steps helps you get there even faster.
Absolutely. So, and again, this is big picture. So when you start looking at the workbook, you're going to be able to take what we're teaching you in the big picture, apply it to your situation, and
Yep.
start writing your plan. So what we hope is that everybody who attends this at the end of the 6th webinar that we do, they
Right.
have a complete written business plan in front of them.
Yeah, fantastic. And Kevin, we're so dedicated to this. Last time I checked, this is free for people to attend. So I mean, very dedicated to providing this information to the owner operators.
Well, and for that, I want to thank Truckstop because you
Yes.
can't do this kind of stuff free. I mean, look at all the people we have involved in this, all the
Yeah.
time we've put into this, the workbook. This takes money to do this, but we were fortunate to have Truckstop fund this for us, so it's free to the participants.
Fantastic.
You know, I had a great call on my show this morning, one of my last calls, and the person who called might be on this event.
I
Because he
hope so.
called me, you got to love this, Brent. You know how frustrated I am with people who don't want to learn,
Right. Oh, yes.
right? You
Major
know,
frustration. Yeah.
they just want to complain about how bad things are
Yeah.
and the government's got to fix everything, but they don't want to learn. The call today was, I bought a truck. I have no idea what I'm doing. It's a team operation. I found you. I started listening to some of your old shows and I need to learn. So I went
Right.
through all the resources we have to teach people this kind of stuff. And I was able to tell them about this program. And I said,
Oh, man.
you got about an hour. You could get registered and be here. But I love the fact that he went back on our trucking technology and efficiency show, which is Friday.
Mhm.
He went back in our app to the very first show and started listening to all of them.
Right.
So
Well, that's amazing, Kevin. Like, Kevin, to me, and I see this a lot. I see this on the carrier side. I see this on the broker side. I see this on the big fleet, the small fleet, the medium fleet, all sides. The ones that are the most successful, they're continuously learning and they're always modifying their plan. And to
yep.
me, that's the big picture thing. It's like make a decision, take a pathway, set your course, and realize you're going to modify it all along the way.
Yep, exactly. And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, yes. That the heck. If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not trying hard enough.
That's how you're going to learn is by making the mistake. So again, this is big picture.
Right.
With the ultimate goal of teaching you how to set up and run a very successful one truck company and then expand it from there if you choose.
Right.
So we are going to spend time on, Brent, there's really only 2 ways to generate more net profit, right?
Sure.
You increase revenue and you
Right.
decrease expenses.
Decrease costs. That's right.
Those are
Yep.
that's it. So big picture, because that's what we're talking about here.
Right.
Those are the two areas we're going to focus on. What kind of things can you do in your business to increase revenue? And what can you do in your business to decrease expenses? And when we do both of those things, we end up with maximum profit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the way I would lay this out. 80% of the material we're going to present will probably be about cutting expenses.
Yeah, because you can
20%
control
will be
those.
about
Right.
increasing revenue.
Right.
I would venture to say the people that are listening right now want it to be the other way.
Who doesn't? Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Yeah, who doesn't? So let's get started with where are they currently in their operation?
And as we dive in, I want to remind all the attendees listening, please use the Q&A functionality within Zoom to put in any questions for either Brent or Kevin. And then we're going to go ahead and answer all those at the end of the call.
Hey, that's a
Fantastic.
great idea, Alan. And let me tell them why they should do that and why we make that available. It's kind of like writing things down again.
Yeah.
What I don't want you to do is have you may already have a question. Write it down so you can forget about it. And then we'll come back to it later. If you don't write it down, you're going to spend so much time thinking about that question, you're going to miss what we're saying.
Yeah.
There's another good reason why you should write this down. As soon as you think of a question, go into that chat and write it down, and then it'll be there when we go back and you can forget about it.
Right.
Brent, I want to ask you a question. You're going to have to play along as the owner-operator here.
I'm ready, man.
All right. I'm going to set up a scenario for you, and I want to know how you would handle this.
Okay.
You get a call from your favorite broker, and he says, "Hey, Brent, you know that that load we always pull out of XYZ. We have a new one. The trailer's all ready. It's sitting in the yard over there. Everybody went home. So just pull in, hook up to that trailer and go get this delivered. And when you get over there, you hook up to the trailer. You got the trailer number. You hook up, and there's paperwork there. It's a bill of lading. But when you look at it, you know who made it, what's in it, what the weight is, how many pieces, all that stuff. But for the consignee, it's blank. No name, no address, no phone number. Right?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to get in this truck and start driving and hope you get there?
I think I might ask for some more information here on what's going on, so I have a good picture of what my responsibility is.
Yeah, and once we do that, and you have a destination now for this load,
right?
We know where we are, right?
Yeah, sure. We know where we're starting.
Where we are. Now we know where we're going, and we just sit down and we look at a map and we go, in order to get from point A to point B, we have to go here and here and then make a turn here, and we'll get there, right?
Right.
Isn't that exactly how we set goals?
That's correct. If you don't know where you're going, how do you get there?
And shouldn't truck drivers be the best goal setters in the country?
Well, one would think so.
They do this every single day. Here's another really good example on how important this kind of stuff is to set the goals, to get things written down. I'm an okay shooter with a gun. I can hit the target most of the time. I'm pretty decent, maybe slightly better than average. I could set up a shooting competition where I could beat the best shooters in the world.
Sure.
Just don't tell them where the target is.
That's right.
If you don't know where the target is, I have the exact same odds of hitting it as the best shooter in the world. Yeah. So we just increased my odds. Yeah. If you don't know where you're going, how the hell are you ever going to get there?
Well, you're not. You're going to have a tough time, Kevin. So I think about wanting to know, well, having a good understanding of the destination helps you plot along the way. But I think most importantly, when you start out on that journey, is to be honest with yourself. Yes. I mean, what are the things that you really are good at? And what are the things that you probably need some help with? And what are the things that you're probably going to suffer with, from setting your point in your business? Because if you start off in the wrong position, it's really hard it makes it more difficult to create success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said about being honest and identifying what you're good at, what you're not good at. I teach a whole course on identifying your strengths and weaknesses, and then focusing on and building off of your strengths. Right. And that changed the whole way I ran my business when I learned that. The one thing I will say that entrepreneurs struggle with is sometimes we think we have to be good at everything,
Yep.
especially
do.
when you're running a business by yourself and you kind of have to do everything. And I kept trying to get better at things like being more organized, and I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just frustrated myself. And I wasn't being effective. And then
Yeah.
I was spending so much time on it, the areas where I was good were being neglected.
Yeah, same thing, Kevin. On my end, I always encourage people to don't major on your minors. If you're
I
not
like
great at
that.
organizational, if you're not great at organizational clarity, find somebody to help you with that organizational clarity, but be fantastic at what you're truly good at. And so you're able to really find the greatest amount of success when you pursue it that way.
Yeah, and that's really what we're talking about on the screen
Right.
here. Set your goals, start
Right.
by writing down. Another way we could look at this, or what are all the resources you have right now?
Yeah, correct.
What do you have for resources, which includes your own knowledge and knowledge of people you know and connect with?
Correct.
Make a good list of what resources you have available to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're going to talk about those personal resources in a minute. So let's move forward on talking about, as we think about where you are in your current position, how are you really defining those big goals? So that's the next sort of in this process, defining your big picture goals, Kevin. So where do you start? Where do you start if you're an owner operator in that?
Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, there
Does
you
that
go.
sound familiar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, for sure. Every
That's
time.
I believe that is habit number 1, isn't it?
Of highly successful people.
Yeah, the 7 habits of highly successful people
Right.
begin with the end
Right.
in mind. And what that means, this should actually be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
What you get to do in this step is you get to design the trucking company you want to have 10 years from
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What does it look like? Is it 10 trucks? Is it 35
Right.
trucks? Is it, do you
Right.
want to be the next mega carrier?
Right.
And how many of those mega carriers, Brent, started with 1 truck?
Oh my goodness. You can't imagine how many of them are. One of the biggest examples to me was a guy that started Jevic Motor Lines out of Delanco, New Jersey. I think he sold it to Yellow Corporation for an unbelievable amount of money. But Harry Mulschlegel started with 1 truck. I
1
think
truck.
Jerry Moyes, who was started Swift, started
Jerry
with 1
Moyes
truck.
started
So
Swift with 1 truck. Yeah, he
yeah, when
did.
you plan this thing, I tell you, Kevin, the thing that on this list, on this 3 bullet points that the watchers are looking at right now is outline your primary business and career goals, short and long term. Here's a quick story. Back in 1998, when I went to work for Overdrive Magazine, the guy that was one of my best friends and mentors, a guy named Mark Kessler, said, are you writing down your goals? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, write down your short-term and long-term business goals and short-term and long-term personal goals. Put them on 1 piece of paper. Put them up at your desk every day. He goes, and put, start dates and end dates and what your goal is and what you want to accomplish. He goes, just put them up. And he goes, if you'll look at them every day, you will be surprised how many of them you will achieve, because it's right there in front of you, reminding you to do what's one of the most important things in any successful business. Stay focused on them.
Yeah, this may be, and it's why we're talking about here at the beginning. This is
Right.
one of the most important steps you're going to do. And I would venture to say, including myself, my first 5 years in business, I
Right.
did none of this.
Oh, yeah, me either.
And
Yeah.
when I started doing it, I kind of fought against it, thinking, oh, I don't need to do this. But the more I did it, the more I realized how powerful it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super powerful, Kevin. And I think about also my encouragement to the owner operators and truckers today is that, remember, write these goals down, but reserve the right to modify them as you start to learn more about them. Modify them all along the way.
Let me give you a good example of
Yeah, man.
about a major modification. Once I started writing down goals, my goal was to be a big fleet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I thought, I'm so good at running 1 truck. If I can continue this thought process and keep all of my trucks this profitable, I will be really successful at this. And I could have been, except I got to the point where it dawned on me, this really isn't what I want. I did not want to run a large trucking company.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Once I saw what I would be spending my day doing, and then I realized my skills are really good for running a small trucking company, but as it grows, the skills that I have aren't very valuable anymore, and I don't really have the skills I need.
Right.
I would not make a good CEO of a large trucking company.
Right.
And I would be miserable. I would
Yeah.
not be
Well,
spending
there
my
you go.
time.
That's the big part of it.
So
Yeah.
at some point when I got up to about 11 trucks and then finally figured out how to run them profitably, that was also
Right.
the time I decided I don't want to run a big trucking company.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
just shift. And then my
I,
goals changed.
yeah.
And my goals became, how can I help other people run a big trucking company if that's what they want to do?
Yeah, such solid advice, Kevin. You gotta know what you're going to wake up every day and have passion to pursue. And if you're miserable in it, get out of it.
Yep.
Go where you can wake up every day and have a heartbeat for what you're going to do. And I tell you what, that's the difference between success at anything you take on. So Kevin, let's move on from, okay, we got our big picture goals. We're writing them down. We're modifying them. We're doing those things. So let's talk next about financial and operational basics within the operation, because man, the I dotting and T crossing and understanding those things are always going to be the same no matter what. So what's your advice there for the owner operator?
So first, I would say this is something we call a keystone.
Yeah, for sure.
Without this step, the rest of the business is going to fall apart.
Mhm.
And that's really what a keystone is. The keystone is the last stone you put in an arch that holds the whole thing together.
Right.
And that's what understanding your numbers and running a business and making your decisions by those numbers, that's the keystone to every
Yep.
business. This idea that you can just go run around and only focus on your revenue number will make you miserable, and you're not going to be very successful,
Yep.
and you're going to be very vulnerable to downturns in the economy.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So I will make the statement, and this might piss some people off, but when we go through some of these years when we're at the top of the market with freight everywhere
Yeah.
and rates
Yeah.
way up, I could teach a monkey to do this. It's that easy when the rates are that good. It really is.
Well,
I see.
yeah.
I just watched people get in and pay
Right.
2 times what they should have paid for equipment,
Right. Right.
have no plan, have no numbers, and they still thought they were doing fantastic
Right. Right.
because the rates were so good.
Well, it happens.
And what have we seen now in all the people that got their authority in the last couple of years?
Well, for the ones that didn't plan, they're probably in a different part of the market now, or not in the market at all. You know, we've had about 25% of the people that came in for the for-hire side during the pandemic, and when there was a market that the money was easy to make at that point, leave it and go to another part of the market, and mostly because they didn't plan their business. So, you know, Kevin, on the sheet that the watchers are looking at on the outline that was given to them, you got in the little outline here, it says cash flow, and I can tell you that if I could encourage anybody, you don't have to be an accounting genius, but you need to understand your cash flow, because you can have a great business and a poor cash flow and be out of business quickly.
Yes. Yeah, you could even be pulling $3 a mile freight and struggle with it.
Correct. Correct.
If it's the wrong freight, if it takes too long, if there's too many other variables that don't work. So I would say again, because we can only talk about the big picture here, 80% of your time should be focused on expenses and 20% should be focused on revenue.
Yep.
And your accounting, your record keeping system, whatever it happens to be, is your scorecard on how well you're doing. It's a way to, I can show people in their business report that we make a change, we look at it this month, we make a change, we look at it next month, and we can see what happened. And the way we see it is we see more dollars going to your pocket. That's the whole point of this. The point is not to get $5 a mile freight.
Yeah.
Not if the cost to you is going to be $4.80 to move it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Look at both ends of the spectrum.
I'd rather have $2 freight that cost me $1.30 to move it.
Right. Correct.
So we have to understand some really, really basic accounting. And when I say basic, it's 3rd grade math.
For sure.
It's addition and subtraction. That's really all we're talking about. But
Kevin, that goes into the take action part of the bottom, where it talks about fuel management and load planning. On load planning, it's not the amount that you get to haul the load. It's what's it going to cost you to haul that freight from point A to point B, and what are you going to take home out of it? Because you may have a great trip, but you may make no money out of it. So super important about, you need to understand your cash flow and your expenses against that. And if you do that on every, if you can know that on every load, it's hard not to make a profit on every single piece of freight that you haul.
It's almost impossible not to
Right.
make a profit.
Right.
It's almost impossible once you know your
Right.
numbers in this business not to make a profit.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
you know, this is an area where we could spend a lot
Oh,
of time going
and
into
will.
details.
Right.
But the big picture here is you have to do this if you want to be successful.
Yeah, and I think about all these details that you cover in the CMC, Kevin, and so I'd encourage any watchers, think about the CMC as things go forward. And so as we were thinking about financial and operational things, let's move into like, what are the tools and resources for success that the owner operator needs to consider for inside of their operation, and then a little bit on how they need to execute on those, using them on a daily basis.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the same thing I told this last caller because
Mhm.
he wanted to learn. And he said, "Where do I go? How do I
Right.
learn?
Right.
What's available to me?" And really, what I went through was what I provide. So I'll just go through that now because this is what I do. So we have the radio show.
Right.
I am on 15 to 20 hours every week, and you can ask me anything you want about business, money, getting started, fuel mileage, maintenance, anything
Right.
at all. And that's free. That's a big resource. Not
Oh,
only
wow.
that,
Absolutely.
I just looked, Aaron probably knows this number. I think on our app currently, there's over 3,500 hours of me doing that.
Right.
So you can go back and listen to all those shows. So that's one resource.
Right.
This program is going to go on for the next year. This is a
Yep.
great big picture resource that you're going to get a lot out of. I do a coaching program where you're going to pay a little bit of money, $75 a month, and you're going to get more in-depth time with me
Yeah.
answer
Fantastic.
your specific questions. And then we have the CMC, which
Yep.
is a year-long program where we cover the big picture, but because we do a webinar every other week instead of every other month, and they're 2 hours long,
Right.
we can cover the big picture and all the details.
Yeah.
So most of the resources I provide are educational. And then, of course, we have our accounting software. We can help you track your fuel mileage and your profit. Now,
Yep.
all the other tools you need, almost every one of them is going to be available through Truckstop.
Yeah. Well, certainly a
That's
lot
why
of
we have this partnership.
absolutely. Well, that's been one of the reasons, and you've even coached a lot of those types of tools onto the platform as well. I think about bullet point number 2, where it says that identify 1 or 2 industry connections you'd like to build. I can't tell you how many times I've been able to avoid a problem or solve a problem inside of the transportation industry by somebody, an expert that's already been there, that's already done that can give me great advice, or that's a customer that I could do business with, but by developing this relationship with, I'm able to really get more consistent freight, consistent pricing that helps me in my business. So I can't emphasize, and you and I talk about this all the time, Kevin. It's about relationships. It's about relationships. Build those relationships that can have an effect on your business from the standpoint of guidance and the standpoint of gaining revenue. And I promise you, if you'll build them over time, it's hard not to find the success that you're looking for.
You know, here's something else I want to tell people, because I have a feeling there's this thought, well, and I hate when people use this, I'm just a driver, or I'm
You're
just
more than that. You're a business
an owner
owner.
operator.
Yeah.
And the people that I need to help me aren't going to want to talk to me. Or I will tell you something about
I
this
think they
industry.
will. Yeah.
That pick anybody. I don't care how much influence they have in this industry. I don't care how big they are. I don't care what they
Right.
do. I have found that everybody is accessible.
Right.
I just had a great conversation at NASTIC with Donald Broughton.
Yeah. Good guy.
Great guy. I mean, I've known he's been around. I haven't really spoken to him much, but I got a chance to, and he was wide open. He was willing to share anything.
Oh, it's amazing.
I wanted to ask. Yeah, so don't be afraid to reach out to these people and start that relationship. I find people that know a lot are always willing to share it.
Oh, they always are, Kevin. All right, KR, I'm going to give the watchers today 4 powerful words that can help you in any situation get the advice and counsel that you're looking for. And this works no matter what. no matter how many times you use it, it'll always work every single time. And here's the words. All right, here's the phrase. Yeah.
Before you do that,
All
I'm
right.
going to activate a feature. This is too valuable to give away. They're going to have to get out their credit card to hear this one.
Well, I'll give this one away for free because
All right,
and
go
look, I
ahead.
teach all my children this. It's here's the phrase. I need your help. And
Good
it's
one.
amazing when you ask someone for help, it's amazing how quickly they will go, "Oh, well, what can I help you with?" And
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
open the door and they will answer just about any question you want, but you have to ask for it. Hey, I need your help. And it's an amazing phrase. I've just never seen it fail. And if you say it honestly, like you should, then it will absolutely move your business forward because people will open up the door to any type of advice that you need to help in your business.
You know, a good example of this, and I just spoke to him at NASTIC.
Mhm.
Mark, he's a regular caller on my show.
Yeah.
He's a car hauler. Anybody that
Yeah.
listens to the
Oh
show,
yeah, I know Mark. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know Mark. Mark was really, really struggling. In fact, he kind of crashed and burned as a hotshot hauler. It wasn't making
Tough
it.
market. Yeah.
Yeah, so he started listening to the show, and I don't want to take credit for this because I just do what I do. I put out
Mhm.
information. People are either going to use it or they won't. But here's a great example of somebody who used it and how well it's paying off. I have been saying forever to people, I don't care if you're brand new in this industry, get involved.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
Go
Yeah.
join your state trucking association and attend a meeting and get involved. Go to as many events as you can afford to go to. And I can remember Mark, kind of pushing back against that.
Right.
And then the more he listened, the more he decided to try it. He was at NASTIC this year. He was at NASTIC last year. He started talking about some relationships that he's built, and they're pretty incredible. I mean, he reached out to people and he joined a car haulers association that
Oh,
I had never
smart
even
move.
heard of.
Yeah.
And when he went, he met all kinds of people. He learned new things. We walked over and I introduced him to David Owen. And it turns out they had a really strong mutual connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mark's insurance agent that he got to know because that's one of your business relationships turned out to be like the guy that taught David Owen insurance.
No way.
And they were
Fantastic.
best friends for years. But Mark said, I can't believe how much I learned just by meeting people at these events and networking.
Well, they will help you. You know, they say in politics, if you're not at the table, you're on the plate.
Yeah.
So always be at the table learning, always be at the table. All right. So let's go to the next slide about what are some of the immediate action steps that the watchers or the listeners can glean from today. And then we'll take some great questions.
Absolutely. So commit to one small goal for this week.
Yeah.
Let me give somebody a goal.
Yep.
And even though we have software that does this, I don't want you to use my software. I want you to figure out since this is for a week, I want you to pick a day, whether Monday starts your week and Sunday ends it, whatever. Pick your week. And I want you this week to calculate your fuel mileage for the week using pencil and paper.
Fantastic start.
Just using pencil and paper.
Right.
And it's really easy. Here's what it is. It is miles divided by gallons.
Right.
That's it. Pick your time frame, figure out your miles divided by the gallons. You're going to calculate your fuel mileage. You can do it on each trip. Then you could average it for the whole week. Don't get too crazy about the details. Just grab a piece of paper and a pencil and figure out how to do this. It's third grade math.
Yeah.
But that's a good goal.
That's a fantastic goal.
And then after that, you get to use the software to do this, which is fantastic, and it's free and it does it. But you'll understand what's happening because you've calculated it yourself.
There's something about doing it yourself that makes it sit and sink into your mind that I've got to improve this. How do I improve this? What do I need to do? And then I love the second bullet point, but talks about the plan a monthly check-in to track your progress. In other words, at anything in life, hold yourself accountable. Those that hold themselves accountable, man, those are the type of people that everybody loves to work with, that everybody, even when things mess up, that they love to work with and they love to grow their business with. So hold yourself accountable. I can't express how important that is. And then Kevin, talk a little bit about the sort of setting a date and reviewing and adjusting along the way.
Well, let's play that along with the monthly check-in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Holding yourself accountable. Yeah.
So our accounting software profit gauges, how often do you think you have to go in and actually do something in there?
Well, I would imagine every day.
Nope. Once a
Once a
month.
month.
Imagine that. Once a month. So
Yeah.
here we go. Here's your meeting.
Yeah.
You sit down. It will take you 20 minutes to
Wow.
put in all of your accounting for the entire month.
Yeah.
And you'll have all of your numbers right there. And now we just go to the next step.
Right.
But this is the same date. Once a month, we're going to sit down, we're going to put in the
Right.
numbers, then we're going to review them.
Absolutely. I love the easy button about that, Kevin. I mean, who doesn't want the easy button? I mean, that's the way I do with my organizational thing. I just need the easy button on it. So that what a fantastic, yeah.
This is the easy button. And we were just talking about this morning. We had people on the call. They were comparing their fuel cost per mile. And we see everything. Matt got on and said he had his fuel cost down to 27 cents a mile.
Wow.
At one point this year. Joel was down into the 20-cent range. And on the other hand, we have owner operators who are in the 60-cent range.
Right.
So what does that tell you? It tells you there is a huge opportunity there to put a lot of money to the bottom line.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those are things you can control. Those are absolute things you can control. So these are the next immediate action steps on this. So I know we're right at time to start taking some questions. Kay, are you ready to take some questions? Because I know you love them.
I'm all set.
Let's do it, man. Alan, bring us some questions.
All right, as I open up the Q&A, it looks like we'll start with Michael Lutz. Has a kind of like a two-part question. The first part is, what is the definition of profitability? And then he's 5 trucks deep. Cash flow has been an issue. Best advice.
Okay. So how do we define profitability? It's actually really simple. We're back to 3rd grade math. Let's just use a really quick example, just a load. Now, this is a little tricky and I'll explain why, but I want you to understand what profitability really is, and unload is the easiest way to do it. Let's say we have a load and it's going to pay us $1,000 to do it. And we want to know what our cost is. Well, if you have our accounting system and it's already filled out, we would already have all the numbers. If you have to do it yourself, you're going to have to list, what does it cost me to pull this load? I have my truck payment, I have fuel, I have insurance, I have all those things. And I have to take those expenses and I have to subtract them from the revenue. So we take our revenue, we subtract our expenses, and what's left is profit. It really is that simple. It's there's only 3 numbers here: revenue, expenses, and when we subtract it, we get our profit. Here's something I will say, Brent, and people push back on this all the time, and I will promise you it's 100% true. It is, I'm going to make a wild claim. It is impossible to run a truck for 100,000 miles a year or more and not make a profit. It's impossible. I've never seen it happen. Not once.
Okay.
Not once. And what confuses people is they'll say, but wait a minute. I by the end of the year, I was out of business. I must not have made a profit. Oh, no, you were making a profit all year. You were just spending it in your personal life and you didn't make enough of a profit to support your lifestyle. But I promise you, you made a profit.
Yeah, that's
it's almost impossible not to in this business. You're going to generate $200,000 plus in gross revenue, and your expenses ideally should be about half of that.
Right.
So if you've got 5 trucks, which is the case here, and cash flow is a struggle right now, and I understand why, this is why we created this program. Don't take this as a criticism. I've been there. It's how I know this stuff. The reason you're struggling with 5 trucks is because you never learned how to run one. That's the whole point of this program. We would, where we would go right now, what's my best advice for somebody in this situation is to sit down with a program like Profit Gauges that will show you expenses per mile, cost per mile, and revenue per mile net on each individual truck.
Yeah.
You're going to sit down with all 5 trucks. You're going to separate receipts the best you can. and get them attached to the truck they belong to the best you can. And then you're going to generate a business report for each one of these trucks. When I almost went bankrupt, when I had 11 trucks, I sat down and I did this. This is how I got out of that hole. What I found out, shockingly, was only 2 of my 11 trucks were generating a profit. Now, I just said it's impossible to run a truck all year and not make a profit. That's with you as the driver. But once you put a driver in that truck, is it possible to run a truck at a loss? Absolutely.
Sure it is.
In a market like this, you're likely to not have a profit if you don't have a good plan.
Yeah, for sure.
We could answer his question with the 5 screens we just went through. Sit down and figure out where you are now, right?
Yep.
Then we'll know. And we may even look at we may look at one of those 5 trucks and go, the best thing to do with this, just get rid of it.
Right. Get to the point where you can create profitability. All right, Kevin, let's take another question. That's a great first starter question, profitability and scale. So Alan, let's get to the next one.
All right, next one is, where can I find and download that accounting software you're talking about? So I think this might be Profit Gauge, Fuel Gauge. Where can people find it?
Yeah, so there's 2 parts. Fuel Gauges is a free app. It's been free forever. You can use it. I have people that have tracked over 1 million miles of fuel economy on their truck and have never paid a penny. Profit Gauges is the full-blown accounting software, and the 2 work together. So if you have Fuel Gauges and Profit Gauges, every time you put a fuel receipt in Fuel Gauges to get your fuel mileage, it gets entered into Profit Gauges as your accounting as well. But they can find both pieces of software at letstruck.com. And the Fuel Gauges app is free. And the Profit Gauges, the accounting software, has a free 30-day trial, and you don't have to put in a credit card or anything. Just sign up, use it for 30 days. Here's what I would recommend. Here's a great offer for somebody right now. We're just about at the end of the month. You could sign up for a free 30-day trial of Profit Gauges, and you could go back and start entering January of this year. Each month will take you about a half hour to enter. You could have almost your entire accounting done for this year, and it won't cost you a penny.
Yeah. That's incredible. Man, fantastic. So what a great resource. All right, Alan, we got another question?
We do, and this one's going to round us out, and then I'll provide additional information. So our last question says, I have 1 truck with over 1 million miles on it, and I took really good care of it. I had to park it due to the market. How can I get up and running again? And
oh, wow.
I'm for a company now.
Great. Kevin, you're going to knock this one out of the park.
So the good news here is trucks today can sit for a really, really long time and not have any kind of maintenance issues whatsoever. It's really incredible. We used to say things like, well, you're going to have to replace all the hoses and the belts. Here's how you get started. You follow what we just said. Don't even go out to the truck yet. Do what we just said. Where are you now? What goals do you have? Go through this process. But once you do that, really, you walk out to the truck, you turn the key on, and you go. There's not much. I don't care if the truck's been sitting for 2 or 3 years. It's not going to take much to get the truck itself going. What you should be focused on is, how do I get the business going? And that's really what we're teaching in this course.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy's going to start with obviously with a truck that's paid off and a truck that's sounds like at least operational.
Yeah.
So the biggest expense is already paid for. So that's a great thing.
Yeah. So sit down and follow the 5 screens in the workbook and get started on this process.
Yeah. Well, that is fantastic, Kevin. So exciting, man. The big picture. All right, owner operators and truckers out there, you got to look at the big picture first, because the big picture is made up of all those small pictures, but you got to understand the big picture first. Kevin, really appreciate you and letting me help be with you and walking them through that. Alan, what we got next?
So, Kevin, I'm going to ask you, go ahead and tab to our next screen. There's a little inspirational quote from you and the team on there.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll out by saying, one question that came in is, will there be a follow-up email with resources that Kevin mentioned? Yes, and anyone that registered for the webinar does get a recording of it as well. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I want to say I appreciate you both, Kevin and Brent, and I'm a student of yours as well. Right at the top, you said, write it down. So I took some notes on my yellow notepad here. So some key pillars that I want to share with everyone as we round out is take notes, right? And modify along the way. Brent, that was like a really good nugget of modify along the way. Keystone, Kevin, you mentioned understanding your numbers, right? So revenue, expenses, that 80-20 rule. So expenses, 80, 20 revenue.
Yep.
So I love that visualization of like the 80-20 rule. And what's your cost to haul? Another one was third, lean into your professional, your network, your community, relationships. And then Brent, I need your help. We tell our kids all the time, right? Like, ask for help, use your resources. So I love that. I need your help. And then the action plan, small goal for this week, monthly check-in, and then review and adjust to the big picture goals. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I call an
Kevin.
audible?
Go for it.
I'm not sure. We put a lot of work into this program. I say we, you guys, Lisa and the team and everybody in the background put a tremendous amount of work into this. And somehow I failed to miss one really important thing.
All right. What is it? Bring it home. This is the Steve Jobs, one more thing. This is
one
the best
more
part.
thing. And it turns out I would actually consider this the most important thing I might recommend to people today.
Right.
So I'm going to make it really easy. Every month we're going to have a book recommendation.
Oh, yes, of course.
I don't know why I didn't put this in here. I always do. I am a huge believer in education. And I don't mean formal school. I did horrible in formal school, never even considered going to college. It was never on my radar. But I found out that I'm a lifelong learner. I love to read. I average about 2 books a week. And for me to get in 2 books is a struggle. With everything else I do, reading 2 books a week, I have got to be committed to that. I miss the days of driving when I could do 2 books a week without taking 1 minute out of the rest of my day because I could do it while I was driving. So every book I recommend will be on Audible, so you can listen to it while you're working.
Oh, yeah. Such a great thing.
The book I'm going to recommend this week, Brent, I don't even think it takes 3 hours to listen to. I actually think this book is less than 3 hours. One of the things people struggle with and why a lot of entrepreneurs fail and why a lot of people struggle in our society is they can't handle change. Change is not easy for people, but I will tell you, whether it's something you're good at naturally or not, you better figure out how to get good at it because change is not going away. And the only pattern I've ever seen with change is that it keeps coming faster and faster. And it's also why I'm not a big fan of traditional education anymore, because our education system is so far behind the curve of what's really happening in the real world these days, that I think you should become a lifelong learner and figure out how to educate yourself, and then you can change quickly. So in order to get people used to change, my book recommendation for the week, and we'll talk about it a little bit at the beginning of the next webinar, is Who Moved My Cheese?
I knew that was going to be your book.
One
of my favorite ones. Who Moved My
Johnson.
Cheese?
Yeah. That go read about Sniff and Scurry.
That's right. Go learn how to embrace change so it can be a benefit to you. Yeah, fantastic. Who Moved My Cheese? I love it. Absolutely. All right. So, Alan, thanks a lot for hosting us on the webinar today. And I'm glad that we had a good crowd show up. That's fantastic. We continue to offer these things. Now we got the next one coming up. What's the title of the next one?
We do. So we're going to ask everyone, go ahead and save the date. It's for Thursday, January 16th. So right into the new year. And it is the path to independence.
Yes, the pathway to independence. I love it. Yep. I've heard Kevin teach this many times out there. So, if you're just beginning in your process, or you're in your process and maybe you need to kind of go back to the beginning again and kind of think through it again, you're going to love Pathway to Independence. It's going to be a big benefit to you. So thank you again for joining us, and thanks for hosting us, Alan.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining as well. Thank you both, Kevin and Brent, for being our hosts and walking us through our first of 6 in this series. I do want to open up contact information. So anyone who has additional questions, you can email me directly and I'll connect you with Kevin, Brent, and the team. My email is alanalberto@truckstop.com. Happy to help and be of service to you, so feel free to reach out. Thank you again. Be on the lookout for the recording of this call and that PDF workbook. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks much.